Welcome to the Baseball Insiders. I am Adam Weinrib, joined as always by FanSided's MLB Insider Robert Murray. Hope it's as nice where you are as it is here. And by here, I mean New Jersey. And I also mean live on YouTube, like we are every Monday and Thursday at 3:30 Eastern right here on this channel. And if trade deadline season hadn't already started on Monday's show, or if it hadn't already started when, let's be honest, the Padres got Luis Arraez like a month ago, it certainly started now as Jeff Passan's primer on ESPN came out, dropping a few connections, a couple of potential missed connections, laying out the buyer, sellers, and potential fits. And here to break down the latest in the rumor department with me is, as mentioned earlier, the aforementioned Robert Murray. Robert, how you doing? We got a lot to dive into today.
Yes, we do. We got lots to dive into. A lot of trade deadline thoughts. Plenty of stuff going on in baseball as we speak in terms of the rumor mill. We saw what Ken Rosenthal reported the other day about trade discussions between the San Diego Padres and the Chicago White Sox. We've seen all sorts of different rumors. A lot of, just as I said, a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. Kept me very busy. Last 48 hours, I probably spent a good 30 of those on the phone. Which we love rumor season. I can't get enough of it. We also want to thank everyone who joined the All-Star call yesterday. That was a blast. Good 40-minute session there. Shared a lot of new stuff that has not been reported quite yet. So if you don't want to join the next one, we're going to probably have it in the next couple of weeks or a few weeks or give or take. But Adam Weinrib, how are you?
I am good. Yeah, shout out to the All-Stars last night. We will see you all again at the end of the month as well. Reminder that I'm on Monday's show. I'm out for the Thursday and then the Monday and the Thursday after that, and then I'll be right back after. But guess what? The Baseball Insiders aren't going anywhere. We're going to have some probably some pretty entertaining co-hosts on those episodes. Robert's going to do his business, so you won't miss anything. You'll just miss me. But shout out to everybody. We'll see you on the next All-Star call at the end of the month. If you're not in the Discord yet, we'd love to see you there. And if you're a baseball fan and you are in the Discord and you're like, man, there's nothing else I can do to support the Baseball Insiders, you are so wrong, because DraftKings is offering a fantastic sign-up bonus for all new users. And that includes fans of the Baseball Insiders. There's a way for you to support us if you don't yet have a DraftKings account and get a reward yourself. New customers can place a $5 first bet on any sport to instantly claim $150 in bonus bets when you sign up with our code Baseball Insider. Best part is you will receive your rewards even if your first bet loses. Using our code Baseball Insider not only gets you these bonuses, but it also directly supports our podcast. If you've been considering signing up for DraftKings, and I know how hard some of you have considered that, you're always, in consternation mode, hand on chin. Should I sign up for DraftKings? Yes. And use the code Baseball Insider when you do it to maximize your first bets. This offer is only available to new customers who are 21 plus and physically present in legal gambling states. Please remember to always gamble responsibly. Check that episode description for the full terms of the offer to see if you qualify. Spoiler alert, most of you probably do. And a lot of gamblers and high rollers are going to emerge at this year's trade deadline in terms of teams that are already good, trying to become great. I would count the Philadelphia Phillies among those, and that is the first team whose little Passan chunk in the trade deadline preview really caught my eye, because a lot of the teams that were labeled as sellers, I would say I knew that already. Teams that were labeled as buyers, yeah, I knew that. We're all still waiting on the specifics, but Passan did connect the Phillies to some very high-profile outfielders. And by connect, I at least said the Phillies are shopping for outfield help. Here's some big old names that could be available. He mentioned Luis Robert, Randy Arozarena, and Kyle Tucker. Obviously, too soon to jump the gun there, but important to note that when we're talking Phillies at this year's deadline, we appear to be talking big additions rather than just marginal adjustments. Does that seem fair that we're mentioning the biggest potentially available names when it comes to the Phillies rather than just supplementary pieces?
No, I think that makes all the sense in the world. I mean, if you followed along with Dave Dombrowski in his previous trade deadline history, he's typically swung big, and he hasn't been afraid to make the big move. He's mostly done it though for like a starting pitcher. He's always, I want to say, he's gone out and acquired David Price twice. He's gone out and tried to bolster the bullpen, which I also think that's something he's probably going to do at the deadline here as well. But I think the majority of their focus, at least in terms of big additions, is going to come in the outfield. And the names that he mentioned, they all make sense. I would be pretty surprised, though, if Kyle Tucker was ultimately moved. Two of the reasons are that Tucker and the Astros have had contract extension talks in the past, and he seems like a foundational piece in Houston. I can't imagine they're going to be in a hurry to move him because he's one of their best players as well. And also the fact that Dana Brown has already come out and said that he does not envision selling. Like, that's not even a thought in his head. We're going to get into that here in a little bit. So I'm skeptical that Tucker's ultimately moved, but look at the other options here. Randy Arozarena, I think he is an absolutely realistic trade option. I think that the A's, or not the A's, but the Rays would end up being smart to listen to offers for him, especially considering where they're at. Could probably get something decent return. And then who was the other one here? Oh, Luis Robert. He is someone who is a very intriguing trade candidate here for a lot of these teams. And he's 26 years old. He's signed to a 6-year, $50 million contract. And he's got 2 team-friendly team options at the end of that, too. And you got to figure with the way he's performed that he'd end up being, they'd end up being picked up. It's going to end up taking a massive haul to get Robert in a trade from the White Sox, but they are open to listening. And I want to make this abundantly clear. Listening is not the same as shopping. Mm-hmm. Teams literally listen on every single player. The White Sox do not need to trade Luis Robert, but they'll at least listen. And if they're blown away, then maybe they can be enticed. But if you're looking at that White Sox roster, there should be no untouchables because they flat out stink. And if they trade Robert and get a haul of prospects in return, then they could have some more foundational pieces for the future. But boy, they are a mess with the White Sox.
They got to win at some point, you would think. They have to win a game at some juncture. 13 in a row is too many losses, in my humble opinion. And no, I'm not just saying that because they're facing the Boston Red Sox this week. Feel free to chime in the comments as well. If you have questions, we are happy to answer them. Although I will say, I love all of your comments. This is the least I've ever understood a comment in my entire life. Love you. Please, I am too stupid to understand this comment. But other comments, I am happy to give you the down low on anything else, as is Robert. But in this particular instance, the only down low I can give you is that I didn't understand a word and I'm a very dumb guy. But every other comment we'll certainly try to address. And that comes with that's rumor related, team question related, etc. So Luis Robert, yeah, I mean, he's the name that stands out most when you read early deadline conversations. So I'm here. I wanted to be like, so it's open season on Robert rumors, right? We can finally like get some fan bases, get their fan bases' hopes up. But for you, it still qualifies as listening mode for the White Sox, who have plenty of rentals and slightly above rentals, players they can dangle like Eric Fetty. There are plenty of attractive pieces on the White Sox that are not Luis Robert, but obviously he is the gem, as is Crochet. No, Michael, I do not know VTubers. Again, the comment has only gotten more confusing.
Yeah, I'm totally, Michael, you could not have me more lost.
You tried to explain and you lost me more. I do not know what VTubers are.
Yeah, I don't know. But I'll tell you, like, I mean, we got all sorts of different questions here asking for your teams as rumors. I mean, we'll start here. Can you mind if I take a little pivot so we can answer some questions in here?
Yeah, go to town, pivot to the comments.
Just so Drew doesn't think I hate him, I'll start with Drew here, asking for Padres deadline rumors. Like, the rumors are absolutely true that they are looking for a starting pitcher. They have talked to the White Sox about their starting pitching. What was it? Crochet, is it?
Garrett Crochet, the first domino that fell in the name connected to team rumor department, Ken Rosenthal, earlier this week.
Yeah, and I can confidently tell you, like, I checked on that. I had heard that earlier in the week, and I had heard that there was interest there. But that being said, I was told nothing was close, and it's going to take a pretty sizable haul in return to get him for any team. And I mean, if you look at it, he's been their best starting pitcher this year. He signed for $800,000 this year, and he's also under contract for 2 arbitration eligible seasons. So he's going to be pretty cheap on the payroll, and that's really attractive to a lot of teams. It's going to take a lot. There's going to be plenty of interest. I think a team like the Milwaukee Brewers makes so much sense for a guy like Crochet. But there's plenty of other teams that fit the bill for him as well. So it's going to be pretty sizable interest, sizable haul. I think there's probably a better chance than not that he is moved, but it's far from a guarantee. Justin continues to ask about a Skeens trade, which it's an interesting one. I don't think that that's a conversation we should have yet.
Future baseball insiders. I mean, we'll certainly weigh in on that at the 2028 deadline when the Pirates are 2-time defending world champs and are looking to buy to supplement Skeens. But for now, I think we're good.
Yeah, I think we're good. I think we're good. Yeah, I mean, I think the Pirates, he's going to end up being the exception for them. I think they're going to try to extend him. I mean, at some point. I mean, it's not going to be. I don't think it'll be now, but I mean, he looks. I mean, between him and Jared Jones, they have their foundational pieces atop that rotation. It's freaking awesome there. With the amount that you've ended up asking that, Justin, I thought you were actually serious. So I was kind of concerned. So I'm glad you were joking. I was slightly worried.
Yeah, I'm good as well. But I think we addressed that as best we possibly could. Couple of good comments here too before we attack some of the rest of the show notes. Multiple Yankees questions and multiple Craig Breslow clearance sale questions. So I'd love to address both. Obviously, love to speak about the New York baseball Yankees. Would they look to shed? Yeah,
I'm curious. What do you think the Yankees will do, or like what they should do? What do you think?
Okay, yeah, all right.
Let me follow them closer than I do.
Let me get on my soapbox here. So they are 25 games over 500 entering tonight's game. I think that reasonably beats anybody's expectations. I don't think you could have possibly, like, some fans are like, why is Trent Grisham start? It's like, come on. They are about as good as they possibly could be. You're not going to win every baseball game. That said, the bullpen has been legitimately a weakness, and they're missing swing and miss in the bullpen too.
Yep.
So it doesn't go very deep. Clay Holmes, one of the best closers in baseball. If you don't agree, argue with a wall. Does he have moments where he, struggles with command, especially after a long layoff? Absolutely. But still, it's really tough to do better than that. Ian Hamilton did not look like his 2023 self until he just took a little break on the COVID IL. He came back. Now he looks stronger. Maybe had some arm stiffness to work through. There was a Milwaukee game earlier in the year where he wasn't used, and Michael Kay hinted that he wasn't bouncing back the way he'd hoped to. If they can get that version of Ian Hamilton moving forward, that helps. If they can get Tommy Kahnle moving forward, that helps. Luke Weaver has been the type of multi-inning relief weapon that Michael King was at one point. He's a foundational piece of the bullpen. That said, Dennis Santana, not cutting it. Nick Birdie has been injured twice already this year, and when he was active, he was not cutting it. The fastball, 99, 100, that's great. Doesn't know where it's going and was getting lit up far too often. Michael Tonkin has been better than expected, but is still one of the most DFA-able guys in the bullpen. Caleb Ferguson and Victor Gonzalez, both solid. When Ferguson gets overworked, he struggles. He's been better as of late, but neither player is foundational. They need swing and miss. This comment saying they could use one more high-end relief pitcher, I would focus on the at least. I think 2 should be their deadline target. And I do think they have pieces to play around with. Peraza, I don't like selling now just because second base is open next year. I want as much competition for that position next year once Gleyber Torres is gone as I can get. That means Peraza, Caleb Durbin, and Yorbid Vivas, and maybe importing talent as well. But Everson Pereira could not be more blocked right now. He's a borderline top 100 prospect in an outfield where they'd like to keep Juan Soto long-term. They have Aaron Judge, they have Jason Dominguez, they have Spencer Jones, and they're enjoying Alex Verdugo this year as well. So Everson Pereira should be the most available headliner. The issue is everybody else knows that he's blocked as well. That is not a secret. So they need, in my opinion, 2 relievers, maybe a depth starter to help limit Luis Gil's innings. And they should hold Peraza if they can because they'd be selling very low on him. Pereira, on the other hand, keep mashing, man, because I think you should be very available. One relief target that Joel Sherman brought up this week, Robert Suarez of the Padres. It was expensive, and that Padres bullpen has been so good that you wonder whether they'd be willing to move off him if the Yankees could eat money. I don't know. That's my long-winded Yankee spiel.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good spiel. I mean, you're not wrong. I think bullpen, that was going to be my thoughts, but I was curious if I was missing anything there. But 2 high-end relievers or high-leverage relievers would make a lot of sense there. I know there's a Red Sox question in there as well. Then we'll get back to our talking points. Actually, there's 2 things in there that I want to mention in the comments. Then we can get back to it. But the Red Sox, if they do sell, I think Tyler O'Neill is going to get a lot of interest. Nick Pivetta makes sense as like a guy who could get some trade interest. And then also like Kenley Jensen and Chris Martin. I think those are like probably their 4 most realistic trade targets, at least at this point. Travis, to answer your question, no. Andrew, what is my drink for the show? I currently have no drink. I've got nothing around me. So if I get cotton mouth or if I get dry mouth, I'm going to be hurting. So that's not going to be good.
Yeah, I coughed during that long-winded response. I mean, Michael, you're going to have to trust me on this one. I know that the numbers say the Yankees have the second best bullpen in baseball. They do not have the second deepest bullpen in baseball. And nobody who they're trotting out in the 6th inning is somebody I want to see protecting a lead in a playoff game. So 1 to 2 more, they'll be fine. And also you have to bake in some regression. Clay Holmes had a 0 ERA through the end of May. Then he gave up some earned runs. It was normal that he gave up some earned runs, but he's not going to pitch at the level. I don't think he's going to give you 2 shutout months in a row for the rest of the season. So that's just my hunch.
I think you're right.
Yeah. And you need to rest him when you can. So right now, when they have a 1-run lead entering the 7th, they go to Canely, Weaver, Holmes. They don't have, if they have a 1-run lead in the 7th in back-to-back games, they have nobody else they can go to where you'd be confident the next night. So in the playoffs, they're going to be taxing people a lot more. But right now, during the regular season, they can cover a slim lead for one game, and then the next game is like, all right, Caleb Ferguson, you're in. Do your thing. So they've been getting a little bit lucky. Not a fantastic bullpen. Good one, not fantastic. So let's send it to also Ryan Garcia here, asking me if Dennis Santana and Brooks Kriske were the 2 relievers available in the 9th game start of the World Series. Dennis Santana gets the ball. I believe in the breaking stuff more than I believe in whatever Brooks Kriske had in his arsenal. But I'm probably not watching. I'm probably doing my patented turn notifications on Apple Watch mode and going and eating an apple in a dark room until the inning is resolved. Fingers crossed the Yankees pull it out.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Well, you stress eat an apple. One of my buddies, like one of my best friends, like if he's watching a game, he stress brushes his teeth. I mean, there's been times I've watched him brush his teeth like 8 times in 30 minutes. It's crazy. But anyways, let's get back to it.
Let's definitely get back to it. We had so much we wanted to talk about, and that was not it. But I do appreciate as always, appreciate the comment. Mariners stood out to me as a team that we should talk about today, as well as in Jeff Passan's preview, because you want to talk about another team that I have not been accustomed to big game hunting Mariners moves on offense. Obviously, Luis Castillo, that was a deadline tipping move when they pulled it off. Their rotation is now an undisputed strength, could be the best rotation in baseball. Although the Pirates are threatening with every Paul Skeens start, and so are the Yankees, of course. And so are the Dodgers because they're the Dodgers. But now it's up to the Mariners offense. They have already shown that they're willing to make bold moves. An early firing of offensive coordinator Brant Brown. Now Jeff Passan, in their hunt for offense, has already speculated, hey, maybe it reaches the Bo Bichette, Vlad Jr. realm. Like maybe they're going that far. Maybe they're in the Arozarena Robert conversations. They certainly have the assets to do it. Right up alongside the Orioles, they might have the most assets in baseball. What are your thoughts on the Mariners' deadline pursuits?
I think they're going to be very aggressive going after offense. I think that's what all the tea leaves suggest. They need to have an offense that pairs really well and complements that pitching staff. Because as you said, it's the best in baseball. It's dominant. It's awesome, or arguably the best in baseball. And they clearly are putting pressure on the offense to be better by firing their offensive coordinator. And now they need to supplement the roster with more talent offensively. And I'm skeptical though about Vlad Jr. and Bo Bichette ultimately being moved. I think it makes sense to match them there, because if the Mariners want to trade the prospects, if there's any team that's going to be willing to trade the prospects to get either of those guys, I think it's Jerry Dipoto, just because of his history and how much he has tried to improve this roster now and previously as well. And you can just never rule him out for a big move. But I'm skeptical that those two are ultimately moved. I think there's just a lot of different directions they can go in as far as trying to improve that lineup. But I think a big move should definitely not be ruled out with Seattle, and upgrading the offense is going to be their top priority by far.
I have a question. What about VTubers? No, just kidding. Yeah, I agree that the Mariners are the early coaching change maneuver did show me and signal that they were deadly serious, and the front office said as much this week, that They're not going to sit this. It's a change in tone from saying a couple of months ago, we're basically aiming to win just over 50% of our games. Whatever happens from there happens. I think now they know they have the kind of rotation that can make genuine noise in a short series. How often is that rotation all going to be healthy at the same time? Not very often. So when they are, maximize and hope everybody sticks. I mean, Brian Wu already had to take some time off to start this year, came back, looked better than ever. Absolute filth from that Mariners team up and down, which leads me right into the rest of the AL West. The Astros aren't going anywhere. You mentioned earlier that they still fancy themselves buyers. I am simply wondering how long that can last, given that Christian Javier and Jose Urquidy are both going under the knife. That would be the kind of thing. If I were the Astros leadership group and I were looking at the sky for a sign to decide if I should buy or sell, and the sky came back and was like, 2 of your starters are hitting the injured list for the entire season, and you'll see them at the end of next season. Does that change your mind? I'd be like, sure does. Let's hit the reset button. But the Astros don't seem to be feeling that way. Any sense of their pulse, it's still Dana Brown full throttle.
Yeah, Dana Brown has suggested numerous times. I think the first time was on MLB Network Radio, and the other one was to local reporters there, that they have had no consideration of selling, that they view themselves as buyers. And that they have not even had a thought of selling yet, which, I mean, I understand that. They're only 7 games back. They're 20-35. So, I mean, they can turn this around within 2 weeks if they wanted to or if they're able to. But if you look at it, after losing Christian Javier and then Jose Urquidy for the year for both those guys, that puts that rotation in a really, really difficult spot. And that rotation even had questions entering the year, too. There was some uncertainty there, and you eliminate those 2 guys, and it's a very troubling position for them to be in. I think nothing has been decided, though, on what they're going to do. I mean, we're 7 to 8 weeks away from the trade deadline, so there's a lot of ball game left before that deadline gets here. And if they do sell, I can't imagine, unless they totally collapse, but I have to imagine they're going to end up making that decision in late July, and then they can go from there. But I don't think Kyle Tucker will be moved. But I think some other players, especially the ones on expiring contracts, can be fair game and probably can be had via trade. But I think it would take a lot for them to get there. Just a very disappointing season for the Astros so far. And if they end up selling, then I think that's going to put some pressure on Dana Brown and also Joe Espada, because this Astros team is used to winning. And if they end up having to sell at the deadline, Jim Crane won't be happy. He will not be happy at all.
Puts a little pressure on Jeff Bagwell as well, I assume, and the new brain trust there in Houston, the anti-analytics crew. That lot of ball game ahead of the trade deadline that you mentioned, it's my favorite part because there is so much ball game left. That means there's a lot more baseball insiders and a lot more rumors to go through. Thanks, everybody, for rocking with us today. We're still going, by the way. I just wanted to thank everybody because this is when it gets good. Trade season, off season, end of season, October, the big time personnel changes that are happening during the postseason. We're so excited. We're so excited that we're done with April and May, and we can finally start responding to questions about rumors and fits and potential movement rather than questions about VTubers. No, I'm just kidding. I will do some research. I just blind spot.
That comment caught me so off guard. I thought we were reading a different language for a second.
Yeah. But again, I want my eyes open to things that I don't understand. So I appreciate it. Pete Alonso comment. Of course, there's a Pete Alonso comment. I think there's going to be a Pete Alonso discussion on almost every episode we do until the deadline. Hints this week in the Passan column, especially saying he expects Alonso to be moved at this point. That language is beginning to change a little bit. It does seem to be the needle tipping in the direction of might be finding a new home at this deadline. The Mets still apparently holding out hope that they can re-sign him after the season, which leads me to believe there could be the Aroldis Chapman gambit at play here, where you trade him to somebody who can use an offensive infusion. You go ahead and blow away the market after the season, and you reap the rewards. Only issue, Alonso not having a fantastic season at this point, the OPS lingering under 800. You wouldn't be trading him at his peak, but you'd obviously still be getting more from him than if you held on to him if the Mets stay where they are in the standings. Jim Bowden on the Athletics All-Star roster preview cited the Mariners, Astros, Yankees, Twins, and Giants as potential Alonso trade fits. I don't think all of those make sense to me. But either way, what is the latest you were sniffing out here on the likelihood of an Alonso trade and potential fits?
Yeah, I don't think it's impossible. I'm still kind of in wait and see mode, and this is like just to figure out exactly what the Mets will do here because it's complicated. And trading a guy and then trying to re-sign him in the offseason, that's a different dynamic. And there's been very few examples of it. There have been some, so like it can be done. But David Stearns made it clear when he took over that he did not want to trade Alonso, and that he ended up like there was no discussions about moving him after he took over running the Mets front office. So going from that stance to possibly moving him at the deadline, that would be pretty drastic. But that being said, the Mets viewed themselves as a playoff team coming into the season, and they do not look like one now. So drastic times call for drastic measures. So that's why I think there is at least some shot here that he is moved, and there will be a market for him. Like I think the Cubs, they do make sense. There's plenty of other teams. I know Bowden, he ended up listing, what was it, the Mariners, the Astros. I mean, Astros, that's a kind of a different one if they do. Yeah, I don't know if I get that one. The Yankees, Twins, and Giants. So there would be a market for them, but that the next month to 4 to 6 weeks are going to end up being pretty telling for the Mets and what they're going to do there. I'm in wait and see mode. I think there is a shot, but I'm not ready to say it's likely by any means. But I think the needle is starting to move a little bit.
The Yankees would shock me, but there was a comment earlier too that did note, hey, Anthony Rizzo becoming a bit of an issue for that team at first base. Easy to ignore when you're 44-19. It's true. I mean, if that OPS stays in the 600s and the defense lags behind, the Yankees might have to have an uncomfortable conversation about Rizzo as the deadline approaches. And as a borderline co-captain, you'd have to think that if they do come to the conclusion that, hey, we need to reinforce this position, that he would be aligned with that and he would be okay with that. That said, chemistry-wise, the team is vibing right now. You can't really blindside Anthony Rizzo and be like, psych, we got Garrett Cooper. Best of luck, buddy. So tough needle to thread. And stop me if you've heard this one before, another Brian Cashman challenge. But I really would be surprised if the Yankees were like, Anthony, sit down. You're out. Pete Alonso's in. We pulled the trigger. Like, that is just so jarring to team chemistry, which has been crucially important this year.
Oh, absolutely. That's if there's one thing you don't mess with, it's team chemistry. That's just that's such a important dynamic in a locker room, and especially with a guy like that. Like Rizzo, how respected he is. I don't know if I would do that if I was them. If I was the Yankees, I'd focus on upgrading that bullpen and getting as many different options as you possibly can for high leverage situations. And if Alonso comes cheap, which, I mean, who knows? I mean, he struggled this year. He's like on an expiring contract. Then maybe that conversation can be had. I also think Alonso probably would be open to being moved, because if he is moved, he wouldn't have the qualifying offer attached to him. So, I mean, that's another dynamic at play here as well. So maybe Boris will be open to it. There's one thing we've known is like Boris and Steve Cohen have a good relationship. So I guess anything can happen there. And certainly the Mets, or Boris, I should say, wouldn't rule out the Mets in the offseason, even if Alonso is traded, just because, I mean, their prime suitor, Steve Cohen, has deep pockets more than any owner in baseball. So you can't rule anything out there. I think it makes sense. It's just a really difficult needle to thread, as you said, but I'm not buying the Yankees. That does not pass the smell test. Although the last time I said that was literally Marcus Stroman, and then he became a Yankee. So yeah. I'm willing to admit my mistakes is what I'm trying to say. That was tough. That was bad.
That passed the smell test with flying colors. I would just say, look, I love expected stats. I love taking steps back and trying to emotionlessly analyze baseball. Team chemistry does matter, and just plucking Anthony Rizzo out of the starting lineup in a permanent benching when the team is as good as it has been, you can't really do that without full buy-in and a strong succession plan. So they're going to give it another month and a half. They may have to address it.
Although I want to mention this about Stroman too, because now this is we're far past this, but at the time when I made the comments about it did not pass the smell test, I had literally somebody directly involved tell me there was a 1% chance of it happening. And then literally 48 hours later, that same person texted me right as Stroman put it on his Instagram story, it's happening. And I'm like, no, it's not. And they're like, yeah, it is. And I'm like, oh my God. And yeah, that was a pretty sinking feeling because like that's one thing I pride myself on is providing good info on this show. And yeah, that was. I mean, it happens. It moved quick, and they put their differences aside. So shout out to those guys. Maybe that's a life lesson for a lot of other people out there. But yeah.
Hey, I mean, look, if that 1% chance can become reality, then what isn't possible? Tommy Pham going through a full season without challenging someone to a fight. It's possible. If Stroman can be a Yankee, that can happen as well. Tommy Pham bidding war probably is coming. Good question from Michael. I mean, you want to talk about a White Sox option who's going to have a lot of landing spots. If you need an outfield bat and an agitator, Tommy Pham is an option for you. And I'm still sticking with, I think Milwaukee Brewer Tommy Pham is. I think St. Louis Cardinal. St. Louis Cardinal reunion Tommy Pham is still my pick.
Yeah, I'll tell you that. I mean, who was it? Was it there was one of the Cardinals pitchers the other day on Foul Territory ended up complimenting Tommy Pham and said he enjoyed his style of play, which, I mean, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, Adam Weinrib, there we go. We're on it. We love it. Yeah, that's but I'll tell you, Tommy Pham, like, I think he's a virtual guarantee to get moved. I mean, he's got to get moved. And even Mike Clevenger, when he returns, and I mean, I got to imagine he'll be moved for probably pennies. But those two guys are absolutely, when they were signed, they knew exactly what they were signing up for. They were going to be trade deadline targets for a lot of teams. And Pham, he's a useful player. We love it.
Always will be, always has been. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. Super fun stream, and I think they're all going to be pretty fun from here on out. Hey, Justin, good comment on JP Sears getting moved. I'm going to be talking to JP Sears tomorrow. Spoiler alert. So I might be able to get an answer from JP Sears on that, but I probably can't prod. He probably doesn't know. But you know what? I'll at least get a sense. Shout out to everyone who showed up today. Had a ton of fun as per usual. Again, join the Discord if you don't want the fun to stop and you have more questions that we didn't answer. Robert and I will be in there 24/7 off pod. And Robert's the one who has the answers, but if you want to BS with me about the Yankees, I'm here for it. So hit me up.
Adam's got good info though. Don't undersell yourself, my friend. You got good info there.
I'm telling it like it is. It's still Dennis Santana over Brooks Kriske for me, but it is close. I certainly don't want to see either of them. And honestly, if either one of them were in the ninth inning of Game 7 of the World Series, I wouldn't be seeing it because I wouldn't be watching. Because I'd be in another room doing an unrelated activity, pacing and checking my phone, going, come on, first and second one out, really? Bullshit. God, bullshit. Which is sort of how I watch these games.
I mean, whatever gets the job done and watching the games, but no. Well, hey, we do appreciate everyone who tuned in and commented on the show today. We had a very active comment section today. It's good stuff. Enjoyed it. Even the one about the V Dodgers, whatever, I don't know what it was.
Yeah. Again,
that was good stuff, Michael. We appreciate you for that.
You learned something new today. Educational comment. I just didn't know, and now I will know. I did some Googling during the show, and spoiler alert, I still don't get it, but maybe at some point I will. It seems like something I'm a generation behind on, but maybe taking over the game of baseball, so I probably should know what everyone's talking about, and that's ultimately going to reflect poorly on me. But we're going to do the best show we can for you next week in perpetuity. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you right back here Monday at 3:30 Eastern to round up the latest, make sense of what's dropped over the weekend. Hopefully we get some big old news drops. I'll be in Oakland over the weekend. Hit me with tips if you got any thoughts on, hey, things you got to do in Oakland. Let me know. Got kind of a packed schedule, but yeah, you got restaurants. I like food. I like to eat. But otherwise, we'll see everybody right back here on Monday.
No, that we will. Be safe in Oakland, and we'll see everyone on Monday. Peace, everybody.
Take care, y'all.